Unseen history photos that leave nothing to the imagination. Chief John Smith, aka White Wolf, reportedly the oldest Native American to ever live, photographed in 1920. He claimed to be 137 years old. This collection of never-before-seen photographs showcases much more than anticipated. If you thought you knew history, think again. These newly colorized images provide an entirely fresh perspective to the past compared to what we're accustomed to knowing. Uncover the untold stories of history that have never been featured in textbooks, now captured and presented in vivid color. These extraordinary photos will leave you mesmerized. Take a closer look to experience their full power. Please note, some of these images and narratives may contain content not suitable for all viewers due to mature themes. Explore this collection of rarely seen snapshots as they reveal true tales from our past. Get ready for an unforgettable journey. In the early 20th century, living beyond your 60s was a remarkable accomplishment. Chief John Smith is an example of this feat. He proclaimed to be 137 years old when he passed away in 1922 amidst war, disease, and famine. This period testifies to human resilience despite challenging circumstances. Originating from the northeast forests of Minnesota, Smith belonged to the Chippewa tribe and is said to have been born in 1785, an age that's challenging for anyone to comprehend. His tribespeople referred to him as wrinkled meat, indicating he was more probably close to 100 years old when he died. We owe gratitude towards Paul Buffalo, who lived amongst the Chippewa during his childhood, because it was through him we learned that Smith mentioned being between 8 and 10 years old when the stars fell. This cryptic statement is probably about the Leonid meteor shower of 1833, making Smith 99 to 100 years old. Nevertheless, when Minnesota's Star Tribune investigated to prove his age, all they did was raise more queries. According to Smith's family members, he claimed that he remembered the War of 1812 and had 8 marriages without any progeny. However, his adopted son Tom persisted that his father expired at the remarkable age of 137. Robert Wadlow, the tallest person in history, at 8 foot 11.1 inches. And Clarence Howerton, one of the smallest people alive at the time, at 2 foot 4 inches, comparing their shoe sizes in 1937. Otherwise considered a mild-mannered American, Robert Wadlow was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the tallest man alive. His final measurement by the twins who collected the records noted that he was 8 foot 11.1 inches tall. By the time he was 8 years old, Wadlow was 5'11", a towering height for a child. Wadlow intended to study law, but in 1936 he went on tour with the Ringling Brothers Circus and found fame as a gentle giant. This photo of Wadlow comparing shoe sizes with Clarence Howerton was sponsored by the International Show Company, now Interco, who offered to make their shoes for free. This was a blessing for Wadlow, as his shoe size was 37 AA, which required special shoes to be made at a cost of $100, the equivalent to $1,500 today. The most notorious side-eye ever captured. Look closer. This iconic photo of Sophia Loren throwing an icy stare at Jane Mansfield and her voluptuous figure is nothing short of infamous. Every shot taken that evening, where a celebration was held to welcome Lauren to Los Angeles, features the Italian actress casting a suspicious glare towards Mansfield. Who can blame her? As per reports from Lauren herself, she wasn't actually annoyed, but simply in awe of how, no matter if standing or seated, the bombshell's curves effortlessly spilled out from her dress. During World War I, a Dutch medic was captured in an iconic photograph wearing a homemade gas mask as protection against hazardous fumes. This image serves as a reminder of the bravery and resiliency of those fighting for freedom during such tumultuous times. During the Great War, a variety of gas masks were utilized on the battlefield. Gas mask technology advanced as time went on, and there even came periods when soldiers had to build makeshift respirators in order to protect themselves during an attack. The U.S. unfortunately experienced more than 2,000 casualties from poisonous attacks, while those with allied nations faced deaths numbering into the thousands, even more than their own countrymen. During World War I, fear was quickly spread on the Eastern Front when soldiers released gas canisters containing chlorine and tear gas. protect themselves from this poisonous substance, troops turned to an unlikely source of protection: urine-soaked cloths. While it may sound odd at first glance, they did so with good reason. The ammonia in their own urea neutralized the chlorine, while water trapped in the fabric acted as a barrier that prevented further passage into their lungs. Mata Hari has experienced a unique form of injustice throughout history. As an alluring dancer, she easily ensnared the hearts of men from around the world. But when Georges Ledoux employed her as a spy for France in 1916, it marked her downfall. A writer in Vienna commented on Mata Hari: "She is slender and tall, with the flexible grace of a wild animal, and with blue-black hair, her face makes a strange foreign impression." The unique flair Mata Hari had, which was considered a strange foreign impression, made her the ideal infiltrator for the French. She wanted to utilize this talent and deceive the Germans by pretending to be their spy, but simultaneously gathering intel for France. However, her strategy did not succeed, and she ended up being perceived as a double agent of Germany instead. In a surprisingly brief period of time, Mata Hari found herself in the middle of European political machinations. By February 13, 1917, she had been arrested on suspicion of espionage following her acceptance, but denial to act upon, 20,000 francs from German sources. After an investigation and subsequent trial that deemed her guilty, she was sentenced to death by firing squad, a punishment carried out without delay on October 15, 1917. Refusing to wear a blindfold as requested by military custom, Mata Hari blew one final kiss towards those gathered before taking her last breath. Swedish boxer Lars Soderberg and Polish boxer Roman Ansak shaking hands after a tough match in Stockholm, Sweden, January 14, 1934. We may never know the exact location of Lars Soderberg and Roman Ansak in this photograph, but it's possible that it was taken after a thrilling bout at the 4th European Boxing Championships held in Budapest, Hungary. From April 11th to the 15th, boxers battled for titles in the weight class between flyweight and heavyweight, just like those present during Los Angeles' Olympic Games. It's known that Ansak fought these championships as he lost his light heavyweight title against Austrian Hans Zeremiter. Despite the absence of details about him on the internet and limited information about Lars Soderberg, it's remarkable to witness two fighters who have endured a strenuous fight displaying sportsmanship in this manner. An angelic Marilyn Monroe in a pink dress, 1952. This iconic photo of Marilyn Monroe, taken in 1952, captures her at her cusp of stardom. At this time, anything seemed possible for her. There was no limit to the possibilities that awaited her over the next decade before her untimely and mysterious death. Although stunning prior to any surgeries or weight struggles, she still had a long road ahead as she strove to make it in Hollywood, a dream which could never have been imagined by a young Monroe who wasn't even allowed to watch movies. As stated in Life magazine, "To go to a movie was a sin. Every night I was told to pray that I would not wake up in hell." If this instilled anything in Monroe, it was a rebellious sense that no matter what, she would be in pictures. And she was right. Gladys Roy and Ivan Unger play tennis on the wings of a Curtiss JN-4 Jenny biplane over Los Angeles, California in 1925. In a world where so much is digitally enhanced, it's incredible to witness an authentic image like this. Pictured in the photograph are Gladys Roy and Ivan Unger, two daring thrill-seekers who frequently made appearances at state fairs and festive occasions by performing nail-biting stunts high up in the sky. Although they appear here as if playing tennis, there's no ball actually used due to the conditions of their environment. Maneuvering a Curtiss JN-4 Jenny aircraft with its maximum speed of 80 miles per hour would make for one difficult game. Spectators were in awe as they witnessed the real-life stunt enacted by Roy and Unger, staged to appear like a captivating game. Photos capturing their various poses have surfaced, showcasing just how thrilling this event was. Although this may appear to be an inappropriate scene of an elderly clown courting a beautiful young woman, it's actually the daughter of Albert Houdini and his old family friend helping her prepare for their performance. Griebling was exposed to the circus industry at a young age while living in Germany. After the passing of his father, he moved to America, where he studied under Houdini prior to joining him as a high flyer. In 1930, after experiencing a devastating accident, Griebling altered his entire performance and began performing as a silent tramp clown who walked through the audience trying to find Miss Jones, while holding an ice block that slowly melted away. His collaboration with Houdini family members, like Harriet, continued until he sadly passed away in 1972. A man examining the Codex Gigas, the largest extant medieval illuminated manuscript in the world, at the National Library of Sweden in Stockholm, 1906. Dubbed the Devil's Bible, Codex Gigas translates to mean giant book. It's an apt name for this immense collection, which spans 620 pages and measures 3 feet in length. This 13th century work was once kept safely within the confines of Podlazi's Benedictine Monastery, where it included both Old and New Testament texts, as well as medical works, grammar guides, a calendar, plus essays on exorcism. Stunningly crafted by a solitary unknown monk, this immense accomplishment renders the book a remarkable masterpiece. But it's the full page that displays an image of Devil facing out to viewers, which has captivated many people's attention. While his form appears wild and menacing, according to the National Library of Sweden, what makes this piece truly astounding is its composition itself. They state, if the scribe worked diligently for 6 hours each day and wrote 6 days a week, it would have taken up to 5 years to complete the manuscript. But if he was a monk who only had 3 hours of labor per day, then it would take approximately 10 years. Furthermore, as this does not account for the time spent on ruling lines that guided his writing before beginning, which likely took several hours per leaf, we can assume an even longer period of time needed to finish this grand project. Creating this manuscript likely took the scribe at least 2 decades to complete, and may have even taken up to 3. Additionally, they incorporated decor into the work, adding an extra dimension of laboriousness that increased their already great effort. Paul Newman is already the epitome of cool, but this mugshot proves that he was an indisputable hunk even back in his college days. With those piercing blue eyes and unmistakable features, you don't need to have seen Cool Hand Luke to recognize him. It's a given. After serving in the Navy during World War II, Newman returned to Ohio and enrolled at Kenyon College on the GI Bill, where he studied both drama and economics, obtaining his BA despite some occasional mischief with friends. Upon graduation from college, Newman continued pursuing his passion for theater by appearing in summer stock companies before attending Yale School of Drama briefly, and then ultimately settling down in New York City. Albert Johann Kramer and Josef Fossler in London, England in 1935. Kramer and Fossler were a performing duo known as Lofty the Dutch Giant and Sepetoni the Swiss Midget. For comedians, partnering up has been a highly profitable way to get ahead in show business. You have the classic straight man and screw-up duo. For instance, there's the gigantic giant, supposedly 9 foot 3 inches, according to his claims, but only 7 foot 9 inches in truth, alongside his partner who barely reaches mid-thigh on him. Lofty padded himself with thick-soled shoes that gave him an extra few inches of height, while Kramer performed tricks with Joseph Fassler, whose stature was just over 3 feet tall. Kramer and Fassler's performances were dazzling. Kramer carried the smaller Fassler onto stage in an attaché case, eliciting laughter and smiles from every corner of the UK. After being partners for a few years, they even took their relationship to the next level by having Kramer marry his partner's sister. One can only hope she was slightly taller than her brother. On a night such as this, the foggy streets of New England possess a mystifying beauty that's both macabre and romantic. If you remain alert, it's an ideal time to take in the sights during your evening stroll. This vibrant photograph could almost make you feel like you've been transported back to Massachusetts at the beginning of World War II, with its abandoned yet quaint roads, which are barren from many men departing for their duty on overseas battlefields. Even if we don't consider ourselves goths, there's something about a misty downtown street of the early 20th century that stirs up an urge to go out on a late-night walk. A Finnish soldier showing off his wood carving. The Finnish savor the satisfaction of creating something beautiful with their own hands, as seen in this photo featuring a proud soldier displaying his intricate wood carving. The nation has birthed many skillful artisans and builders who understand that true pleasure comes from doing things by hand rather than relying on manufactured shortcuts. By appreciating works of craftsmanship, the Finns demonstrate an admiration for those willing to put in effort to make something special, something unique that no machine can replicate. It's remarkable that this soldier could create such a realistic cannon and its surrounding fence with nothing more than a knife, plank of wood, and sheer talent. His skill is simply astounding. Nothing demonstrates craftsmanship quite like his ability to capture not just the features of the cannon itself, but also all its dimensions as well. The fresh-faced boys in this photograph seem more ready to attend a Sadie Hawkins dance than an Allied operations assault such as Operation Torch, which was executed during World War II. Even though the typical soldier's age at that time was 26 years old, just take one glance at that youth gazing into the camera, and it's plain to see they can't be any older than 16. It's remarkable how these young men had the courage to charge onto those beaches of Northwest Africa and fight for freedom. During World War II, men of all ages were doing whatever they could to protect our nation's values. Young high schoolers lied about how old they were, and college students sacrificed their education in order to fight on the front lines, a place where unimaginable terror awaited them. Such dedication was seen across the board. Everyone wanted to be part of saving the world from destruction. Despite the fact that cars are a common part of our lives today, many of us still find ourselves craning our necks to take in car crashes. This is unsurprising when we consider how much more frequent accidents have become since the 1920s. Back then, it wasn't all that rare for people to never have seen a motor accident before. Understandably, onlookers in 1921 will be drawn to this accident like moths to a flame. It's highly likely that this driver had never been behind the wheel of a car before. Even in the early 20th century, there were visible distinctions between driving on roads and walking on sidewalks. So it makes sense why he was having difficulty. Luckily, no one was harmed from what could easily have been an intense accident. Let's hope this individual learned his lesson to stay off of sidewalks when operating motor vehicles after all that trouble. 4 years before his death in Ostapovo, Russia, Leo Tolstoy submerged himself in writing essays that encompassed his anarchist beliefs and urged against violent revolution, an act which fostered a correspondence with Mahatma Gandhi. On the contrary to this tranquil image captured of Tolstoy peacefully alongside his wife Sonia, theirs was actually an estranged relationship due to their immense ideological differences. On top of that, she battled envy sparked by her husband's success. In order to avoid any unnecessary conflict, Tolstoy slipped away from home during the midnight hour and journeyed through the wintry weather with just a few of his belongings. Unfortunately, this rigorous undertaking led him to succumb to pneumonia on November 20th, 1910. Fishing has been an essential part of Sweden's culture for centuries. Fishermen and women wade into the nation's lakes, rivers, and oceans to bring back sustenance for their loved ones, as well as earn a living in the country's various canneries. Back in the 1940s, Sweden, fishing was a way of life. It was just something people did as part of their occupations. They were aware that living harmoniously with the land meant getting up before sunrise to catch schools of fish swimming through frigid waters. Plus, who could forget about the stylish attires and pipes smoked by Swedish fishermen? Now that's truly living. Frederick Douglass is not only one of the most significant African-American intellectuals and orators in history, but he's also a major figure in U.S. history for his revolutionary message about racial discrimination during an era when America was divided. He used his speeches to catalyze change beyond those newly freed from slavery. This had far-reaching implications on civil rights throughout the entire country. On July 5, 1852, instead of celebrating Independence Day like the rest of America, Frederick Douglass addressed a group of 600 people in Rochester's Corinthian Hall to share why he believed that the Declaration of Independence was not inclusive enough. He argued that it failed to consider those who were enslaved or otherwise oppressed because they weren't white. In his speech, Douglass highlighted why he preferred this date over July 4th as an opportunity for reflection and awareness. What to the American slave is the 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciation of tyrants brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. This is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Although it's difficult to know if this veteran was blind before or during World War II, there's a good chance that he lost his vision in the line of duty. It comes as no surprise that they have chosen to use a guide dog for assistance and support with daily tasks. During World War I, Germany had the ingenious idea to care for its injured veterans by implementing a guide dog movement. Over time, this innovative concept spread northward and reached Finland. It all started when Dr. Gerhard Stalling left his German Shepherd with one of his patients, only to realize that the animal was providing assistance. Thus, the occupation of using dogs as guides began in 1916. Stalling pioneered a training program to enable German Shepherds to become guides for the visually impaired. Soon enough, in 1919, this revolutionary thought made its presence known across America and beyond. From 1935, the tensions in North Africa had been escalating as Italy invaded Ethiopia. As World War II progressed through 1943, it became clear that Northern Africa would be a main battleground for Allied and Axis forces alike. The unease was shared by Egypt and Britain, who were concerned about any consequences of this invasion. By 1943, the heated struggle between the Axis and Allies had ensued to control the Suez Canal, granting access to oil from the Middle East nations, as well as raw materials from Asia. While some areas might be remembered more vividly in history books, it's North Africa that was a major battleground during World War II with its gruesome warfare. Establishing a clear victor in North Africa was not easy. Not only did the landscape present an unfamiliar challenge to those engaged in conflict, but its unforgiving climate posed additional difficulties for all parties involved. Nevertheless, through smart strategizing and well-thought-out planning, the Allies were ultimately able to triumph by employing a dispersed approach as opposed to concentrating their forces on certain regions like the enemies had done.